Good evening and welcome to the June 13th, 2024 Zoning Commission regular meeting held in Brookfield Town Hall, room 133. I'd like the members of here tonight to introduce them, starting from my left.
Anthony Papucci, Vice Chairman.
Kurt Timmerman, Chairman.
Matt Grimes, member.
All right, so we can all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag for the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have our two other members absent tonight, so it's just Tony, myself, and Matt. So if everybody had a chance to look at the zoning enforcement, and you see anything,
As I said, when does Fran sleep?
yeah. I mean, some of these, I guess there's
There's a
locked
lot,
up
there's
in
a
the
lot with
courts.
pending litigation,
Yeah,
so.
yeah, exactly. So there's not much you can do about some of these things.
Correct.
I drove by the 3 Ashwood Lane, so I did see those, and, I mean, it's a heavily wooded lot. I mean, pergola looks all right, right where it is, and the regs seem to allow it, so I don't see an issue with that.
What is the next thing on the last one, on 58 Old Grays Bridge? What is the next thing? Because, I mean, it's not, you said they filed a special permit. We had a citation issued,
Yeah, for
but it's, so is it still in violation?
58 Old Grays Bridge Road.
It is.
Yeah.
It's still being occupied by Lesser Evil Popcorn.
Mhm.
And we were actually out there today. We did a site walk with Arcadius engineering firm or remediation firm, whatever they do.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of, he finally got, was it EPA?
EPA and deep approval.
Oh.
I'm waiting to go forward with the remediation plan for both wetlands and zoning.
Yeah, so he can't do any of the site improvements until he got that approval right there. So.
Yeah.
And it was done on, I think they got the approval on Tuesday.
Tuesday, yeah.
It's been
Yeah.
pending for over a year.
Yeah.
So he's been held up by the government.
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he's still,
He
I mean,
should be,
regardless of being held up by the
No,
government.
I
it's still-
understand, yeah.
I mean, I'm inclined not maybe tonight, but if this goes on much longer, because this predates me on the
Oh, yeah.
commission, predates
Yeah.
zoning.
Yeah.
I'm inclined to refer this to the town attorney.
Well, I just saw that in the paper today. They're going for a remediation permit, so they had a public notice. So he's gone
And
forward with that.
I appreciate
Yeah.
that, but that's,
Well, that's
that
showing
remediation
forward
permit is not gonna fix all of their problems
No,
over there.
that's a movement forward, so he's
Alright, so
doing what he says.
Let's give him a little more time, but I mean, I see this eventually winding up with the town attorney, but if there's not,
Yes, yep. It's a proven citation.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's, all right. Anything else?
thank you, Fran.
Have you guys had a chance to review the minutes of the previous meeting of May 23rd, 2024?
I did. I'll make a motion to approve the meetings minutes from
May 23rd?
May 23rd. Sorry, I lost the date. I lost it, 2024.
Second?
Why don't you say it, because I was.
Oh, I'll second. Any modifications, changes, corrections?
How did you ever survive a meeting without Fran and me?
Oh, so all in favor of approving, well, we can't vote.
You
on it.
you can go 201.
Well, that's not a quorum. 3 is a quorum.
Yeah, but
We'll wait until next time. We'll table that till next time.
Okay, you need a motion to continue it then to.
Make a motion to continue reviewing of the minutes of May 23rd, 2024.
Well, I'll second that. Well, and all in
Aye.
favor?
Yep.
Aye, all right. Okay. Next time. All right, no continued public hearings, no new public hearings. Old business, draft regulation changes. This was sent off to Tom Beecher, but he has not gotten back to us yet, so he has got back to us on 2 things. So he seems to be slowed up here. So I'm not sure if we should do anything until we hear back from him.
Yeah, no, I think
Yeah.
we need his input. Why don't you maybe just follow up, see if we can get something for the 27th?
Yeah. Is that the next meeting?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So that's next time. Draft fee regulation?
We should probably do that with the full commission.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep. And response to the planning commission, so we should probably do that with a full commission too, but.
We should, but that needs to be an ongoing discussion here.
Yes, and so what I gave you today was, I had some, well, first of all, yes, that one with the table on it. Yes, that one right there. So I took the letter that Courtney Knapp had sent us, and I just put them in the left side of the table and sort of paraphrase what she's asking. And some of my initial thoughts, which we can go through, but also put the empty boxes down there below as well on the next pages. There's like 5 or 6 different areas that they would like to get a response on. So if you, you should read the Halliday, I forget what their first name is.
This
but-
Gerald and Halliday?
Yes, Fitzgerald and Halliday, report back in 2016, I think it was, or maybe even earlier, coupled with the POCD, and look to see, try to get your thoughts on that, and then we can talk about those thoughts, come up with a response to them, so we can give it back to them.
I agree, and I think at some point, given the fact that the commissions are gonna merge by the end of 2025, I think it would be practical for us to do a workshop together with the planning commission at some point,
Mhm.
just to exchange ideas.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, it's not binding, but we're gonna have to be working together to implement the POCD once it's approved. I think that'd be practical, whether it's a Saturday morning discussion, whether it's a Thursday evening discussion, fine by me, but, you know, there's gonna be a lot of, outreach. I think planning has taken a very proactive approach like we did with the cannabis to reach out to try to get a lot of things. They're gonna be doing a lot of presentations from what I understand. so.
Yeah, and they're trying to secure a, yeah, because the budget passed, so they have.
Did it go out to an RFP yet? or-
The
Yeah.
RFP is drafted right now, and we're in the final stages.
So hopefully by the end of the summer, they'll have something.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, well, that'd be good. So if we can get them at least some meat back to.
Who needs summer vacations?
Yeah. So I would say take this home, just
Thank you for preparing this, Kurt, though.
Yeah.
This is very helpful.
read some of what I wrote, you know, put in some of your own thoughts, and then we will come up together with a final response to them, you know.
But maybe when everybody's here, hopefully on the 27th, we'll reach out to planning and say, can we have a date where both commissions can sit down and
Yeah.
kind of just
Yeah, I think
Share
they want,
ideas.
I think we want them to get their schedule in place, their plan, and then we
And
can
that'll
say,
happen
please,
probably
no-
once they bring the
yeah,
consultant on.
let's please let you know, that we're interested, when you get your plan together, we'd like to be a part of that and do a workshop for,
Very much so.
so I think that'd be a good idea. All right.
And again, thank you for preparing this.
So that was 7C, and hopefully they watch our show and they can see we're talking about it.
And if anybody else is watching too, I mean, please tune into the planning commission, because you'll see the places where, as the public, you'll have the opportunity to have some input in this, which is gonna pretty much be our oversight for the next 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, okay, I'll make a motion to set a public hearing for application Z2429. That's 13 Richards Road, and that is an application for proposed 31 by 20 home expansion, including 2 bedrooms, living area, deck, and modifications to the existing kitchen for June 27th, 2024.
I'll second it.
All right, well, the only discussion I have is, why do we have a home expansion? Is there something for that?
It's gonna be an accessory apartment.
Oh,
And
Um,
so accessory apartment is under the umbrella of home expansion.
yeah, okay.
So that's why-
it's just,
It's not,
just a terminate,
it
yeah.
used to be by itself, now it's under that umbrella.
Yeah, I was just confused why I didn't actually say that anywhere. All right. Any further discussion? No, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? None?
And I'll
No
also,
abstentions?
motion to set a public hearing for 29 Pritton Hill Road, application Z2431. That's an application for proposed bathroom and kitchen in the basement for June 27th, 2024.
I second it.
All right, any discussion on this? No, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous.
And I'll make a motion to table item 8C until Mr.
No,
Oh,
there he
no,
is.
no, never-
Look at that. He must be watching the show.
And I was gonna say, as he walks away,
I would say,
Were
do
you
we have
watching
any-
out, were you watching out in the hall? I mean,
Yeah, do we have any here for 100 Pocono Road? Application Z-24-33?
I am
Could you
here.
state your name and address?
Greg Dembowski, representing the town of Brookfield, the applicant.
Thank you.
So you have a package.
Yeah.
I have a bigger print of the same thing in your package. So with the town received a steep grant to install pickleball courts. As recommended by the Park and Rec Commission, the location for those pickleball courts will be on this town hall campus. And the location of that is as shown in your map. The concrete footprint for that foundation is 130 feet by 65 feet, as shown on your map. And there's a natural resource permit requirement for moving soil or adding soil. As I show on the application, we're only bringing in about 7 cubic yards of soil,
Yeah.
but we're relocating, the exact number is on that map, I have it in a little box,
400.
almost 400 cubic yards.
Yeah.
And the reason we're doing that is, of course, the courts need to be flat. And if that section of the town hall campus has got about a 6-foot slope difference from front to back. So all we're doing is taking those 400 cubic yards of dirt from this part of the property to this part. It's basically with the bulldozer.
Okay.
So that's the purpose of the application. We'd appreciate approval as soon as you can so we can restart the work. We put the work on hold until we received your approval.
And is there gonna be a retaining wall where you dig out, I assume?
There's gonna be just a gentle slope because we have the part of the project also is to have an ADA accessible sidewalk from the parking lot to the courts. So it's gonna be graded in a way such that we're ADA compliant, and all the surface drains will be swales on both sides for water to run off from the soccer fields, which is a little higher, down into that lower area.
Oh, all right.
So no retaining wall is planned.
Oh, okay. All right. Any other questions from the commissioners? Oh, looks good. I was just taking pickleball lessons, I was telling.
Good. You may have to get in
I'm
line.
ready for
You
it.
may have to get in line for them. I think it's going to be
I
popular.
read that maybe August, but since you're a little delayed having to do this.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily because of this. The company putting in the courts is the same company that upgrades all of the courts for the down in Flushing. It's the same company that does all the court upgrades there, and he's doing 2 courts a year down in Flushing. So he's busy now. He also does pickleball courts across the state. So we want to lock this guy up. We still think we can have it this year, but it's going to be later in the summer, maybe early fall.
All right. Well, I'll take a motion to approve.
I will make a motion for 100 Pocono Road, Z2433, Town of Brookfield, natural resource permit for the pickleball court project.
All right, have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Matt. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Unanimous. Thank you.
I think I'll stay.
Okay. All right, no tabled items. Commissioner comments and informal discussion. First up is 10A, proposed bottle redemption center. Dave Oakes of Quick and Easy Bottle Returns. Is he here? Oh, all right. If you could go up to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Dave Oakes, Quick and Easy Bottle Returns, Carmel, New York.
Okay. And we got your thing here. So why don't you describe what you want to do? I have to say, I looked through our regulations and I didn't see, we have a use table. It's not on the table because the way our regulations are written is prohibited. So that's, but let's understand more about what you do.
All right, so we're a bottle redemption. Basically, customers can bring in anything that has a state deposit.
Yep.
Bottles, cans, and glass. They bring them in. We count them, separate them according to size and brand. We pay the customer, of course, their money. We pile it up on a side. The distributors come and pick up the product from us. Then the distributors from there will get the bottles over to the state-hired initiator, which happens to be Tomer Recycling. And then from there it goes to Tomer, gets calculated and scanned, and then from there it moves on to recycling. So basically our process is, instead of the customers going to the grocery stores using the machines, they can bring them to us. They'll be in and out in minutes. The machines don't get, they jam up and all that stuff. So being that we take the product in, we're only sorting and separating it. It goes into bags. We tie them up and stack them off to the side. So I have another location in New York, and we run a fine line as far as, the categories is there as well. Because it can be considered wholesale as well, because we're just bringing it in, we're separating it, and then we're wholesaling it back to the distributors.
Right. You give, it looks, well, in Connecticut it's 10 cents now, so you'd give 10 cents for each of the bottles.
Yes.
And you must be getting more from
We would-
doing your service of consolidating? stuff?
Yes, they give us what they call handling fee. So this is a very small percentage on top.
Yeah.
It's all about volume.
Right.
Kind of same way the lottery tickets work and stuff like that. Each district place gets cents on cents on a ticket. We
Yeah.
get cents on a barcode.
Oh, I see.
Product has to be clean when it comes in, state regulations, so we don't take in garbage, none of that stuff. It's just bottles that have a deposit.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I was
I'm not seeing how,
yeah, I looked through our table of uses for commercial, so that'd be commercial and industrial, and I didn't see where it could fit anywhere. This could be an accessory use, and of course it is for grocery stores and even
in
for-
liquor stores, yeah.
and liquor stores, and also
And
what's the other
Costco
one?
and BJ's.
Yeah,
well,
Rite Aid, they have one out there because they sell
That's right, yep.
soda and stuff.
Right.
But not as just a redemption center. We don't really, I don't think we ever had any thought about that, and that's why it doesn't exist in the.
Well, it doesn't exist even in the New York ones as well. So when I went to 2 different townships, the one of them was just, he was able to do a change of use for us.
Yeah.
Just because it's a
Your-
service
your
that we,
apples and apples comparison to zoning in
yeah,
New
Yeah.
York, yeah.
So
Apples
to
and
do a
oranges.
change of use, or, you'd have to do a zoning reg change. And the zoning reg change, you'd have to put it in front of the public would have to, put their 2 cents in, or 10 cents maybe in this case. And then we'd have to
Change
go
them,
over it.
change
We'd
the,
have to actually change our regs.
and then they
yeah.
would have to apply.
And yeah,
Right.
so it's a 2-step process. First, you have to change the regs to even allow it, and then you have to come in and put a application in, knowing that it's allowed to put your site in. So
Okay.
it's a little more difficult here, at least for our regs. Not everybody's regs are, we call them permissive. Only what's permitted is allowed, and everything else prohibited. So I
And
don't know.
sometimes applications might fall into a gray area, but I'm not seeing where this one.
Yeah, I looked to see, we could shoehorn it in, because, there are certain things that, yes, unique, we haven't encountered it before, but it certainly falls under, one of these uses. So it's like, we can see the extension into it. But right now, unless you can come up with something, but if you see something, I would talk to the land use officer, perhaps you already have. But I looked as well, because they alerted me, it's like, oh, can you see where this could fit? And I really couldn't, based on what it is now.
okay.
So I'm sorry to disappoint you with what the 2-step process have to be. But I appreciate you coming in, at least asking. Yeah,
All right. Thank you very much for your time.
you're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, 10B, discussion regarding moratorium. In your papers should be,
The article from the News Times.
oh, the article from the News Times, but also I had sample language. I put my copy here so I don't steal anybody else's.
Fair enough.
Of a possible language for moratorium. I had sent this also out to Tom
Tom
Beecher,
Beecher.
but I haven't heard back. And some supporting documentation, one would be, this chart to show us how much we've increased apartments and everything. And also, this is something that that was distributed to us, the emergency services study. this goes over how many emergency calls and where they are in town. So you can get a snapshot of how busy we are. So I already
Do you
have
mind
this.
if we invite Greg to weigh in on this?
Yeah, I mean,
Greg?
that would be a good thing. We're talking about the moratorium,
The article that was in the paper,
multifamily
sewer capacity.
development moratorium. If
Yeah.
you have because as a community development specialist, right? You might have some pertinent information.
No, one of the things that was pointed out in the article that ran in the News Times, I guess, last weekend, that was that zoning commission, by Mr. Dunn, that we had the authority to put in a moratorium with respect to that subject. We haven't done so yet, but we wanted to start the discussion tonight with it.
Okay.
So, let me go over what the possible reasons would be. So, and then you can, if you have any relevant information, we would add.
We don't have an application currently.
No, we don't have an application. We just some draft language. So the rationale for the requested change is to allow the zoning commission to pause to assess the current regulations and their impact on the town structure, the town infrastructure, and the opinion that development is outpacing the town's sewer capacity, water capacity, school population, emergency services, including police, fire, and ambulance, and also their impact on the update of the plan of conservation development, which is currently being developed by the Planning Commission, and how well the current POCD was supported in terms of development and application of the current regs. That's what they're going through. The town's opinion on the development going forward and any new regs. And we thought, it just happened coincidentally that we had a lot of development happening all at once. And so because of that, we thought with the POCD being written, maybe it's a good time to pause. So if we don't want to fall behind, if we thought, hey, we want to slow down, not slow down development, but pause development so we can see what's going on, because there was a concern with the sewer, though that moratorium has been lifted. I had heard about possible water things, but also, the impacts on the school population with so much development happening.
Not just
And
on
also-
not just on the school population, but EMS.
Oh, yeah,
everything
and,
else,
Right.
yeah. And so, more emergency calls. I know that the ambulance service, just a year or two ago, had to add another ambulance. It's not fully utilized yet, but those are driven by more apartments and more population. And the other thing is the population aging. Now, some of the apartments, the goal and part of the POCD and the revitalization plan was to try to bring new people and to bring that average age down. This keeps going up. So as people start aging, the use for emergency services is going up.
And not only that, but also have an opportunity for people who want to stay in Brookfield but are downsizing, they're empty
Yes.
nesters, and maybe going to Florida for the winter
Yeah.
and having a place to stay here and
And
everything.
as-
And that puts a
yeah.
strain on the EMS too, because, I mean, Greg could probably tell you better than I can. I mean, and I point out very often, we are in the top 10 of senior citizen per capita in this state. No offense to anyone who is a senior citizen watching, but
Well,
we've got a lot.
anybody over 55 is elderly in this town.
Okay, I can make a lot of comments about this.
Please do.
But I don't know if you want to hear them.
Please do.
Yeah.
So
Please
just
do,
a few
yeah.
general comments. I don't even know where to start, there's so much on this. If you haven't read my last two economic development annual reports,
Yeah.
please do, because every one of the things you talked about is in there.
Yep.
And I've done my best with the help of the staff and the land use, because pulling all that data is not trivial. It's basically a lot of manual retrieval of data to come to a report. So I encourage you to read both the 2023 and 2024 Economic Development Report. And it talks about housing, density, what's planned, what's done, what's coming, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the first thing, my first comment to you. The other thing is, you all are right, the average age in Brookfield, the median age has increased by 2 years over the past 3 years, from 44 to 46 years old. Or maybe it was 45 to 47. So we are an aging population, no doubt. You can look at the CERC profiles that come out. The 2024 profile just came out a couple of months ago. You can look at all the demographic shifts going on.
Is this from the state?
It's a company that used to be CERC, now it's Advanced CT.
Oh.
It's a private company. It's an agency that performs that service to update town profiles every year. The 2024 profile just came out.
And not to interrupt you, but I think what your most recent one talked about the population over 65 increasing as well.
Yes, yeah. There's a lot of demographic shifts. Aging population is one. I guess my next general comment is, if you haven't read the Emergency Services Impact Study that the town did, it's about 100 and almost 200 pages, please read that, because it talks about the increase in demand, where that demand is, and where it is not. And I know there's a lot of commenting in the public domain about it's all from new apartments. That's not what the report says. So I'd encourage you to read the report to really understand the data a lot more. And there's a lot of data. And it's not perfectly, just read the report. There's a lot of data there. The other,
I'll send that out to the.
yeah,
And it's all cited where the data, a lot of the data comes
yes,
from
yes.
throughout that.
And it comes from multiple sources. That's why it doesn't all square balance. Some comes from dispatch, some comes from fire, and the databases aren't all the same in every case. At least they weren't years ago. So it's hard to really triangulate and square balance every data point. It just doesn't happen. The next comment I'll make is school population. The school population over the past 10 years has decreased about 22, on average, ballpark, about 22 students per year. Now that's probably going to shift, and probably already has shifted, I think for two reasons. In my opinion, I don't have the data to support it. A lot of single-family empty nesters are being replaced by young families. And of course, we have new apartments, new multifamily apartments. The other thing that's really interesting is not one new apartment has opened since in 2023 or 2024. So when we talk about all these new apartments, there hasn't been a new apartment in town since 2022. You'll see that in my 2024 report. Having said that, there's 147 or 144 opening in 2024. So you've got to be careful with data, because nothing's linear and nothing projects out in a linear fashion. It's all.
And the declining enrollment that Greg talked about over the last decade, that's not indigenous to Brookfield at all. I mean,
No.
if you go to the surrounding towns, they've experienced similar declining enrollment. I think Danbury is the only one, maybe Ridgefield as well, that's had an actual increase in enrollment. But Bethel, New Milford, Newtown, New Fairfield, they've all had declining
Yeah.
enrollment.
2008's been the high point.
Yeah.
Greg, a question for you though, staying on the school point. Is there any data points showing private versus public? And the reason why is private seems to have upticked a lot over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So that also is a demographic shift, meaning people are not staying in the public school system, which could have a knock effect.
Yeah. You know, St. Joe's School closed, but that wasn't a huge population.
No, but CLA, Faith, again,
Yes.
I'm immaculate. Again, I'm thinking of the other ones.
Homeschool?
Homeschooling as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, does the school population numbers coming from the Board of Ed include private?
It's,
Or-
no, it's the public, it's public,
Just
public
No,
schools.
Okay.
But within those reports, you do see a number of how many, because they have to register anybody who's being homeschooled.
Yeah.
So you see that number.
Yeah.
I think that you see the private school number, because we also know how many children, we always knew that how many children that leave Wisconsin, graduate from Wisconsin, go to Immaculate or Abbott Tech or
Yeah,
anything
but
like that.
what happens if it's before that? That's the reason why. I know, well, for my own son, we took him out after Huckleberry, so he was never at Wisconsin. He was local in Brookfield, and then high school, he went to New Milford, because he was at Faith.
Before you, just one last interruption, you can go on. When these apartments come in front of us, we ask what the mix is, because studios and one-bedrooms do not generate children as much as a two-bedroom, because you just don't have the.
That's a great point. If you get a chance to read the two reports I referenced, I talked about not only the number of new apartments, but are they affordable, incentive, market rate, and are they studio, 1, 2, or 3 bedroom? That's all in the report.
And I forget, does your report distinguish the condos from the apartments?
No, I just talk housing units and
No,
single-family
you
homes.
do distinguish between owner-occupied and rentals.
I do.
That's what I mean.
I do, yeah. One other comment, all the developments in the town center district, not true. It's up and down the federal,
Yeah.
it's outside, it's on mostly Federal Road, but it's not just the TCD.
A lot of people think when they're going down Federal Road, they're in the TCD, but they're not
Right,
actually in the TCD.
right.
And that's what this chart shows, that I'll have a better version with real proper callouts. I had done a chart to show the different projects going on, their address and how many units and what year they're gonna hit the ground.
And what data, where'd you get the data to fill out that chart?
From going back to all our applications that came in front, and knowing what's being built right now.
I would like to balance that against the two reports I referenced.
Okay.
We should be
I might have
really,
gotten some of
really,
this.
really close.
Yeah.
I go back to 2016. If you go back to my 2023 report that I wrote specifically for the EMS study, I go back to 2016.
Yeah, the reason I did a lot of this is because of, you talk about in the public domain, there's talk about hundreds of apartments. Well, I want to quantify that number, because what you see being built right now is, really shows up. I don't have like Barnbeck or anybody
And a lot of
else
that
in
was
there.
approved
Oh,
several
yeah,
years
a
ago.
long
Oh,
time ago,
absolutely.
yeah. These are the ones that are all of a sudden being built, but they were approved years ago. Only
Right.
because COVID got in the way.
Correct.
things
Supply
like that.
delays, yeah.
Everything, yeah. Again, Barnbeck is a perfect example that Matt referenced. That was done in the early 2000s. It sat because of the housing bubble for at least 10 or 15 years before that kicked off and got off the ground.
And then one of the things you have to remember, and Fran and I used to talk about this on the zoning commission, is when you turn right out of Silver Mine Road and you go to New Milford, along the town center district and all of those properties, you have a kind of a hopscotch of pre-existing non-conforming properties that everything is kind of built around.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and, okay.
Sorry.
Well, part of that is, back to why we're even talking about this, is we want to make sure our regs are appropriate, because now we can finally pause. It wasn't appropriate when we did the rewrite to touch anything in the TCD zone or around it as far as regs go, because nothing had happened yet. So we couldn't reflect on, well, did it happen like we thought? It's only now, which is coincidental with the POCD being done, that we now can look back and say, yeah, that was good, that wasn't good. And there's a lot of properties that can be redeveloped up and down in the district north and the district south of the TCD.
You know, the gateways.
Yeah, the gateways. Yeah.
Now, are you still researching, or have you taken a position that this is something zoning should approach?
Honestly, I didn't read the article. I heard that this was being talked about, so I haven't given an application. I'd love,
We
No,
don't at this point.
yeah, I can give you our sample language.
I would love to see it. I don't have an opinion yet. I've not really thought about that.
Well, if we do decide to go forth with an application, I think we would be very interested in your opinion.
I'd be happy to provide you my 2 cents worth.
And
By the
the
way, the RF
EDC as well, because it
Yes,
affects
yeah, sure,
a lot of things that they have on
Yeah.
their plate.
Yeah. So speaking of the POCD, just today, we sent a final version to Mr. Dunn for the RFP,
Oh.
which he had only 1 or 2 minor comments. That'll probably go out Monday or Tuesday.
Okay.
And then we'll be picking somebody to start that work with us.
Yeah. All right. Well, that'd be good. Now that we're done with our interruptions, do you have any other thoughts?
No, I wasn't prepared for this, so I don't.
I know.
I like to be.
We're taking advantage of the
And
fact that you're
I
here.
think I think it'll be an even further discussion next time when hopefully we have the
Right.
full
Yeah,
commission.
yeah. And then we have some comments back from the attorney as well.
So if
You know,
if we make an application to do this, we're probably looking sometime in July, I would guess.
Something like that. You know,
July
then
or
it's gotta
August.
go through its, public hearing process, and that could stay open as long as it needs to. Because we do wanna hear from, the developers are directly affected by this.
Yeah.
And I think, Kurt, in just looking at this now, I mean, I think you're hitting the nail right on the head in terms of the overview of why would the rationale would be if the zoning commission decides to go forth with this application. And frankly, it's a lot of the stuff that was mentioned in the article, and I do think that the past 2 reports that Greg did, as well as especially the EMS component and the overall emergency impact study that was done.
I mean,
And because obviously, one of the things that's probably the next biggest capital project for the town is gonna be the police department.
yeah. And we hadn't yet looked back at, and done an assessment of what's going on. And that's redoing the POCD or updating it, is that assessment. But it'd be, hard if the assessment gets done and other things are built, we say, you know what, we wish we would have changed that. And that's what the moratorium would be there for,
Right.
so we can assess it without fear of, you know, maybe we change nothing, you know, maybe nothing gets changed, or maybe there's tweaks. But we don't want things to happen if, you know, if in the future something was gonna get tweaked and we lost a chance to do
Yeah.
it.
Well, there's also a potential cause and effect of this that no one's called out. And again, it's speculative.
Yeah.
So Danbury has agreed, this is what's been agreed from a capacity standpoint.
Yeah.
But realistically, is
Yeah.
it going to become
A
something
problem
that the
again.
town, well, besides it being a problem, but is the town of Brookfield now gonna have to put some sort of,
Oh, their own sewer, yeah.
Right.
Because right there in the article, it says when we go within a certain percentage of the max,
Right.
the moratorium comes back down
Correct.
on top of it. So that's like what we're talking about. It's
Right.
moratorium on anything that hooks up.
Yeah.
All the districts
Right.
along the sewer.
but that's what I'm saying, and again, and if that's the
And
case,
some of those pre-existing non-conforming properties are not eligible to hook up to the sewer just because of where they are and where they have to access.
Exactly, and again, that could trigger, you know, okay, so you've done all of this work over the last 5, 10 years. Well, guess what? Now you need to spend $100 million to put some sort of, you know, cleansing or reclamation facility in the town, which, again, that's,
Yeah, I mean, it's,
And it may not even be a sewer, maybe a brand-new septic system or something like that. We don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
So I go
Go on and put the
to,
cart
I
before-
go to, sorry, Matt.
I don't want to put the cart before the horse, that's.
I go to WPCA meetings, several as needed, and they're, now that the moratorium's lifted, and I was at the meeting with our developers and Mr. Dunn with the mayor of Danbury a couple of weeks ago regarding sewer capacity, and it's an issue not just in Brookfield, regionally. So they're looking again at the options to connect to New Milford, to build a small package plant in town, or to help Danbury increase their capacity. They got lowered once they had to meet the new phosphorus limit. So there's a lot of big ticket items down the horizon. There's also other big projects impacting development. There's a rail project, PAC, that I'm on. They're looking at a rail project. One future phase would be rail going up to New Milford through Brookfield. I mean, there's a lot of big stuff that's many years down the road, but being looked at regionally. Westcog, especially since the infrastructure money has started working its way from Washington to Hartford to the COGs, Westcog is the organization that is writing the grants, like this big trail grant, if you read the paper yesterday, for big regional transportation or planning projects, using the IIJA money, the infrastructure grant money. So there's a lot of big stuff coming, and it's gonna be coming for many years.
Okay.
Two other comments, if I can, just quickly.
Oh, yeah.
The the affordable housing moratorium is being challenged. We have one that's it got extended. I think it's got about 2 or 2.5 years left on it. It is being challenged
by who?
in the courts in another town. Only a couple towns, maybe a few towns in the state, have an affordable housing moratorium.
Yeah.
We're one of those few. I understand, and I'm not prepared to talk in a lot of detail because I didn't know I'd be covering this tonight, but we got word about 6 months ago that if a ruling in another town with an affordable housing moratorium gets overturned in the courts, it'll probably impact our moratorium. And the way the moratorium is granted is on a point system. And if you read the moratorium booklet, that's about this thick, it's all based on a calculation in points. And we've got some points for things that maybe we'll lose points on, and we will lose our moratorium.
Yeah.
Have heard nothing on that since, so I don't know if or when that's ever gonna happen. Second comment, one of my biggest, I don't wanna say concerns, but unknowns and uncertainties is there are so much legislation in the state that has been talked about regarding affordable housing, just in general, affordable housing.
Yep.
So at what point does any of that legislation or discussion become law, and how does that impact or supersede anything we went in a POCD?
Yeah.
That is such a big unknown.
Yeah.
I mean, you can read the history of 830G. There's been 22 or 24 amendments to that. It's been around for a long time, and every year the bite gets a little bigger and bigger. So at what point does some legislation just take over anything we're trying to accomplish here? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a big unknown. And it's not just Brookfield, it's Danbury. I mean, it's the region.
Yeah,
One of the big things is, if you're close to a transportation hub, if you're even an adjoining town to where there's a train station or a bus station, they're talking about having, the state having more say on housing density.
yeah,
There's all kinds of things out there that I don't know how you plan for.
yeah, because as that density goes up, the impact on our infrastructure goes up, sewer, water.
Yeah.
Power, gas, whatever.
Even the mayor of Danbury, our meeting 2 weeks ago, he goes, we may not be building out, we may be building up. Wow, so, those are all my comments.
All right, well, thank you,
Thank you, Greg.
we
Yep,
appreciate them.
yep.
All right, any other comments from, yeah, we'll go over this, I'll get you guys, to the whole commission, the emergency services report and the 2 economic development reports, so everybody can have them. And, my updated map. Anything else?
Yeah, I'll bring it up when we have a full commission, but I just want to explain, since we had discussed it at the May 9th meeting. So we had made an inquiry to the Board of Ethics as a commission. The reason we had made that inquiry was because there was some allegations that were made in the public by former members of this commission.
Right.
After the selectmen acted on a vacancy appointment, after that appointment was made and weighed in by the town attorney that it was valid and should go forward, there was some comments made that could call it, that the decisions of the commission might be called into question. There was a lot of noise, put it that way. There was a lot of noise and nothing official done. The reason, and since Tony voted the same way, the reason we had made the inquiry to the Board of Ethics as a request for an advisory opinion, nobody alleged any ethics violation, was because the noise was made after the town attorney had weighed in. So what I think the rationale of the commission was that if we made the inquiry, since their form said what part of the charter concerns you,
Yeah.
and we said what part of the charter concerned us, and the thought was that they would go to the backup council or special town council to answer those questions if the decisions of the commission were put in jeopardy, if that sort of thing. So when I attended the Board of Ethics meeting, and they did read the question, and they actually, because of our inquiry, voted to change their form going forward, because the question was very broad. It said, what part of the charter concerns you? And I had laid out the parts of the charter that concerns you. The only part of the charter that the Board of Ethics has any jurisdiction over is Article 10, which governs conflict of interest. And none of what we had inquired about involved a conflict of interest. So therefore, all of the sections that we were inquiring about, they said they didn't have a say in. So the next step would be, and again, we have to have a discussion as a full commission, because I think I would like the issue put to rest. I don't want noise being out there made in the public that gives the idea that this commission is doing anything wrong. So I think we need to have a discussion at the next commission as to what the next step is. It's not the Board of Ethics, because their jurisdiction is conflict of interest, and nobody at any time, with all the noise that was made, said that there was a conflict of interest on this subject, nor do I believe that there's one. So I think we have to have the discussion as to what to do next, because they basically threw it back at us.
And plus, the Board of Ethics, from what they included me in the letter, because it's not confidential, inquiries aren't.
Yeah.
Apparently, well, you have the letter too, right? Did you get the letter?
No.
Bill? Oh, I thought you had sent, okay. So,
so
basically, if you're gonna do an inquiry, it's gotta be the person that is for themselves,
And
asking
they
for
have,
themselves.
and they're very limited as to what they can ask.
Yeah.
The question is, do I have a conflict of
Yeah,
interest? Not
beforehand.
was the appointment invalid or
Yeah,
anything like
right.
that.
Right.
Yeah.
And if the answer is no,
Right,
One
but
thing I
it's-
thought was interesting, though, on the letter, was one comment they made. They said in their conclusion, it said, we determined that your request for an advisory opinion did not indicate a conflict of interest concerns.
Exactly.
So,
And
read into
so
what
they
you're
changed,
talking
so they
about.
changed the form,
Yeah.
which I think is gonna say from now on what part of Article 10 of the charter concerns you, not what part of the whole charter
thing, right.
concerns you.
Yeah.
That's why we made the inquiry, because in my, and I'll make the statement that I made on May 9th. The way, if you believe the charter's been violated, the way to remedy it is not to make noise about it and cast a cloud of doubt. The remedy is to do the official thing. I thought it was by going to the Board of Ethics, but they say they can't look at anything but conflict of interest.
Well, we learned something new.
I guess we did. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.